Now, let's welcome Julie and hear her story.
And my mother would say, oh, you know, we have a buried treasure. In our family, it's in the bottom of the Atlantic in the Titanic, and she was right. It consisted of American gold pieces, $100 worth, that my great uncle and his wife were carrying back from Siam, we would say Thailand. I doubt I will ever see a nickel of those gold pieces, unfortunately. However, I can say that I got a great treasure from the Titanic, which is the story that my great uncle told me. His name was Albert, their baby was Alden, his wife was Sylvia, and they were returning from Siam when they all three survived, making them a rare Titanic family, one of the few to survive intact. Here's how Naples looked in that era, and as they pulled into the harbor, they saw a ship flying the American flag, which they knew meant it was sailing for America that very day. And Albert asked the sailor, gosh, what ship is that? And the sailor said, well, that's the Carpathia. Well, according to my memory, he got on board the Carpathia and scoped it out with the thought of taking it. According to my sister's memory, he stood in line to buy tickets for the Carpathia, but changed his mind. According to my mother, his niece, he definitely intended to take the Carpathia home to America. But something changed their mind, and they went into Naples instead. And there they saw something that would change their lives forever. A placard advertising the Titanic, the biggest ship in the world, leaving from Southampton, England, on April 10th, which was about the time they had thought to leave Europe anyway. And so Albert turned to Sylvia and said, that's the ship we're taking. The Caldwells are the luckiest people in the world. They were going home on the Titanic. And all the way, everybody was talking about the opulence and the beauty and the unsinkability of the Titanic. Everyone knew it was unsinkable. It was the most luxurious ocean liner. It was the largest. Everyone was proud to be taking it. One person who didn't believe it was unsinkable was Sylvia, who asked the deckhand as he was loading her baggage, is this ship really unsinkable? And he gave her an immortally erroneous reply that everybody knows about the Titanic, and I see the young lady behind Zuzu knows the answer. What did he say?
God himself couldn't sink this ship.
She gets an A+. Yes, lady. God himself could not sink this ship. That line is ripped off in every movie, every play about the Titanic, and it's stolen from Sylvia. Well, on April 14, 1912, it was a Sunday. Of course, there was a church service in the second-class dining room. And of course, our Presbyterian missionaries went to that, faithful as they were. And the theme of it was that old naval hymn, For those in peril on the sea. They sang that hymn, and the pastor gave a little homily about the perils of life, equating them to the perils of the sea. And of course, they understood they were not in any peril. And as Albert would always tell at this point, he would pause and say, how little did we realize how many of us would meet God that very night. Well, late that night, Sylvia was just dozing, just lightly asleep, and she felt the ship shudder. She felt the ship actually hit the iceberg. No wonder. She was sharing the bed with the baby. I don't know how she got any sleep at all. But so she tried to wake Al up. So he leaped out of bed, threw on a raincoat, ran out on deck, and said to a sailor, why have we stopped? And the sailor said, oh, we just bumped into an iceberg. No harm done, I guess. Go back to bed. So Albert did. He said it was really, really hard to get back to sleep. Just as he was nodding off, they were shocked to hear a knock on the door with a sailor yelling, everybody on deck with your life belts. We would say life jacket. Everybody on deck with your life belts on. And one of them locked eyes with him and called him by name and said, Mr. Caldwell, if you value your life, get off this ship. I have been below, and the hold is filling up with water. This ship will go down. For a while, it looked like their journey down the side of the ship in lifeboat 13 was going to be the most hazardous thing. Now, 13 was passing by just at that moment. The stokers saw it, ran and hailed it. The stokers all got on, and then the Caldwells got on. And 13 did not slip down the side evenly. It pitched forward and it pitched backward. There was something wrong with the ropes and the pulleys, and it was just going back and forth, and they were hanging on for dear life. Depicted in the picture here, lifeboat 15 was now coming down on top of them because that outflow water pushed them under the path of 15. And they were screaming, stop, stop, stop. And 15 couldn't hear them over the water, and finally when it got close enough for them to beat on the bottom, the people in 15 got the idea. So they rowed out a half mile as they had been ordered to do. And it was only when they got a half mile away and Albert looked back that he realized the Titanic would really go down. He was shocked to see that it was well down by the bow and it was definitely going to go. First he had realized it had less than half an hour by the the time he figured that out. He said that was remarkable. They watched as the sad scene unfolded. The lights burned until nearly the last minute. The engineers kept them going, so even from underwater and unearthly below was coming to the top. And as the horrible moment drew near, the lights winked out, and there was a terrible explosion, and the bow broke off and sank. So then it was just the dark stern against the sky, and it lifted up against the stars, and with a gentle swish, she was gone. There was a moment of silence, and then the cries started. Now, everybody on the Titanic had a life jacket. They all had a life-saving device, which was a life jacket, and every one of them could have been saved had it been warm tropical waters. But unfortunately, the water was 28 degrees. It was actually below freezing because of the salt content. And people were screaming for help, which nobody could give unless they were very, very close. And it was a terrible thing. Now, one man in lifeboat 13 was in denial, and he said, oh, it's what people singing among the lifeboats. As dawn broke, they saw, in fact, they took the burning letters so that they would not get run down. Finally, at dawn, they saw the ship waiting for them a safe distance away. It was the Carpathia. It was the very ship that they had turned down in Naples a few weeks before, and they come to their rescue. Well, both Albert and Sylvia said the saddest thing, the whole experience, was seeing all the women of the Titanic lining the rails of the Carpathia, watching every lifeboat as it came in, looking for a husband, a brother, a son, or a sweetheart who never came. They realized that they were one of the few families who survived intact, and they were very, very grateful for that. Now, that was the story as Albert told it to me, and it was a true story and an accurate story. There was actually nothing wrong with it. However, little did I know that I hardly knew the story at all. Yeah, I know it's coming out soon, again in 3D. I first watched it, I didn't like it because I was used to it as a survivor's story. This is not from the survivor's point of view. I can say they took a great deal of care to make the Titanic look right. From what I know of the Titanic's looks, they really worked hard at that. The love story, I think, is very unlikely. I don't think that a first-class woman would have ever met a third-class man, much less fallen in love with him, and so on. I'll just use that and so on for the rest. I always laugh though when in that movie they stole our line again. Rose's yucky fiance tells her God himself not seeing this ship. So there it is again. They stole the line.